Hello, hello there, beautiful ones, my beautiful soul family. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Happy Thursday. Blessings to you, Arellano. Good evening. Moco's 8603. How's my soul family doing this evening? Good evening, Chris. Blessings to you, Denise Alvarez. Lorunagbe Santo Blue Ace. Hello there, Ms. Reg. Streamline Beauty. Good evening. Ashlyn Me Ash. Sherry, hi there. Santo Lorunagwe. Queen Sunshine Tarot. How is my soul family doing on this Thursday evening? How's your week going so far? Hopefully staying out of trouble, right? So do me a quick favor, everyone. Do me a quick favor. If you haven't yet, please invite someone into this live right now. Hit on that triangular sign at the bottom of your screen and invite someone into this live right now. I'm doing great, Denise. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Doing great, Sherry. Thank you for asking too. A hectic week, huh? But at least you're handling it. Mocos 8603, at least you're handling it and you're getting it done. And that's what matters. You're getting it done. Yes. So welcome, everyone. If this is your first time here in the Soul Family Tribe, welcome. I bring to you tonight an interesting topic that I want to speak on. I was just sitting in prayer and it came to me. And it is, to me, an important conversation to be had. Hello there, She Major. What a week indeed, huh? Angie Lan, well, at least you're breathing and you're alive and you are also handling it and getting it done. Welcome, my soul family. Welcome to all my loving soul family. So, our topic tonight. Oh, thank you. Love my shirt. Thank you. It says, I may live. It looks backwards on this. I don't know if it looks backwards to you too, but it looks backwards to me on the screen. So it says, I may live in the USA, but my story began in Cuba. Yes. So I want to speak tonight on this, what I believe to be an important topic within spiritual practice, specifically within my Afro-Cuban spiritual practice of Espiritismo. We have an understanding of how the relationships between the human us and spirit goes on. And that particular relationship that we have with the other side, right? With the inanimate objects, which are spirits, how it goes down and how we are affected by such dynamic, by such relationship, or the lack of two. Throughout my years of practicing Afro-Cuban Espiritismo, the spiritism, the spiritual practice of communicating with the spirit world, with understanding the influence of the spirit world into the human, on the human, I find many different type of scenarios that affects us all as human beings. And sometimes when we fail to have the understanding, when we fail to have the teachings, when we fail to know what comes from what and why, we get stuck in a very toxic loop that sometimes we can stay in for years without knowing how, without really understanding the long-term effects of these situations. So I want to bring to us the topic of ungrateful spirits. In this particular case, when I speak of ungrateful spirits, I am not speaking about our incarnate spirit. There's a different topic. We all have an incarnate spirit. We all have a spirit inside that is the one that allows us to use this physical body, right? We're not this body. I hope that we can at least agree, regardless of what dogma you follow, what religious spiritual path you follow, what your belief system is. I hope that we can at least agree that we are not this physical body. This is just the coat that our spirit uses to be up and about on earth. But we're not this body. We will leave the body behind, and our spirit will continue to go in its journey. We are not our physical body. And that's a whole different topic in its own, because we need to understand that we're not our physical body, and because we are so visual and we are attached to the physical things, we misinterpret people, we judge people, we miss out on opportunities, we have doors closed on us because we are sometimes discouraged, or we allow ourselves to be turned off by how someone looks. We allow ourselves to be turned off by the sound of the voice of the person, or the color of their skin, or what they wear, or the kind of music they listen to, or the religious spiritual path they follow, on the belief system, or their sexual preference, or what have you. We get turned off by countless of different things, while we fail to understand that we are not our physical body. How we look and how we sound is not really what matters. We have an inanimate energy, which is our spirit, our inner spirit, okay, in which uses this body. That's most important, our inner spirit. So you could be dismissing someone. I don't want to go off topic here. You could be dismissing opportunities. You could be dismissing people that can be blessings, bring blessings into your life, because you don't like the way they look, or because, you think that because they're overweight, they're not intelligent. Stupid idea, but you'd be surprised that level of discrimination, how it does happen every single day. It happens to people when they go for job interviews. It happens to people when they're trying to collaborate, when they're trying to open up a business, when they're trying to get promotions. It happens to people when they are trying to buy homes. It happens to people when they're trying to move in certain spaces, right? They get judged, they get evaluated, they get discriminated by the way they look. I think we can all agree that there's something that happens in our world and has been happening since the beginning of time. But let's stick to the topic. The topic of our live tonight is ungrateful spirits. I made that statement because I wanted to set the tone in giving us an understanding, separating our incarnate spirit versus what I call ungrateful spirits. Who are the ungrateful spirits? The ungrateful spirits are those whom passed away, who died in very sad manners, in very sad ways in life. They didn't have a happy life. They suffered a lot their whole entire life. They hardly ever saw great things. They hardly ever experienced true joy and true happiness. They hardly ever had positive stories to share. They went struggling from one situation to another detrimental situation, to another challenge, and their life cycle was pretty much consumed with hardships, with pain, with suffering, with loss. These are who I call the ungrateful spirits. Ungrateful spirits are individuals that their whole entire life, for the most part, there can be exceptions, but for the most part, their entire human existence was filled with much turmoil, much chaos, much loss, much aches and pains, loss, aggravation. A lot of it, this is not necessarily exclusive to our enslaved Africans. This is pretty much anyone, regardless of what their ethnic and origins are. But needless to say, our enslaved Africans, in my opinion, suffered at the most. We're talking about not one day, not 2 days, not 10 years, not 5 years. We're talking about 300 plus years of pains and sufferings. We're talking about generations of suffering. The ungrateful spirits are not people that only have an intention to do harm or to cause havoc in the living, right? In the lives of the living. Sometimes it just happens to be that that particular ungrateful spirit did not know anything that was good, did not experience anything that was good, did not see anything that would bring hope and happiness to their life. So it would be safe to say that when this person passes away, when they die and they leave the earthly realm with very bitter energy. They leave the earthly realm feeling upset, angry, depressed, mad. I mean, you name it. And many of these people, okay, have died feeling this way. Well, it happens to be, at least under the teachings of Afro-Cuban Espiritismo, which, that's a whole different topic I'm not going to get into. The practice of spiritism does not come from Cuba. But anyway, I'm not going to get into that. It is safe to say that these energies, these people, when they pass away, they are left, according to Espiritismo, they are left in limbo. They are left in a space where their spirit is not elevating. Their spirit is not elevating. When we speak about elevation, I'm not necessarily prescribing, okay? I'm not necessarily strictly prescribing to the notion of if you're a good person, you go to heaven, and if you're a bad person, you go to hell. This heaven and hell thing, I'm not prescribing to that. But I am speaking to the fact that these kinds of individuals, when they transition, they stay stuck in what's called this limbo state, right? Where their spirit does not elevate. And that lack of elevation causes their energy to find a host, basically. Okay? They find a host. And that host, believe it or not, can be you, me, it could be anyone. It could be anybody. Anyone could be a host to ungrateful spirits. These ungrateful spirits, when they find a host, oftentimes, the living person, the energy, their vibration changes, okay? Their feelings about themselves changes. Their outlook towards life changes. Their dynamic and relationship with their family members change. Their relationship with their children, with the husband, with the wife, changes. Their whole persona gets affected by the influence of an ungrateful spirit, which is an unelevated spirit. Okay? Am I making any sense to you so far? Let me see some hands. Let me see. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Let me hear something. I want to know if you are understanding what I am trying to share with you thus far. Am I making any sense to you so far? Let me hear someone say yes, completely. Thank you. Thank you very much, Luna Llena de Maya. Que Dios te bendiga, mi niña. Awesome. Thank you so very much, Angelica. Thank you. Glitterly Magic Body Sculpting. Thank you very much. The Hair Priestess. How you doing, beloved? Thank you very much on this joyride. Okay, so this is making sense so far. So we established, and I hope you're taking notes. We established the fact that our incarnate spirit is different than what I am labeling ungrateful spirits. And anyway, I'm labeling ungrateful spirits, but this has been written about, through Allan Kardec, and these has been written about through individuals who have dived deep into the practice of spiritism. So there's a difference between a person's incarnate spirit. We have an incarnate spirit, right? We established that. We established the fact that we are not our body. This is just the physical, and this is the physical material suit that our inanimate spirit wears. But it's not the same as the ungrateful spirits. The ungrateful spirits, we established, are individuals that hardly ever saw or experienced joy. They hardly ever experienced happiness. They hardly ever experienced bliss. They hardly ever experienced true love. They hardly ever experience self-love. They hardly ever experience excitement. They hardly ever experience anything that would bring, greatness, and hardly ever experience gratefulness. I'm going somewhere. I need you to hear me out. Be patient with me. They hardly ever experienced gratefulness. Okay? That's why I call them the ungrateful spirits, because they hardly ever, these kinds of spirits hardly ever experienced gratefulness, the energy, the vibration of gratefulness. Why? Well, it's very common sense. If I have nothing to look forward to, if I've never had a happy life, if all I've lived was trauma, if all I lived was chaos, if all I lived was loss, if all I lived was pain, if all I lived was instability, if all I lived was craziness, then what the hell do I have to be grateful for? That's the mentality that these spirits bring, because they never lived through anything that made them feel that they should be grateful for. And gratefulness, being grateful, it's a very, very, very important vibration. The vibration of gratefulness is very important for our well-being, for our longevity, for our prosperity, for our growth, for our stability. The vibration of gratefulness. It is foundational for our ability to feel wholesome. I hope this is making sense to you. Okay. And what I'm trying to establish here is that there are hundreds of thousands of people in our world that find it hard to live, because it's almost like trying to be grateful, trying to live and be grateful while having ungrateful spirits around you, or having an ungrateful spirit attached to you. Because when an ungrateful spirit attaches to you, like I said earlier, When an ungrateful spirit attaches to you, it it just kills the vibration of positivity, of joy, of happiness, of bliss, of love, of growth, of hope. It just kills it. It just kills it. Now let's look at how important is gratefulness. The spirit, the vibration, the energy of gratefulness is extremely, extremely important in our life. Gratefulness, or being grateful, as it is defined in the books. Gratefulness has being grateful has numerous definitions according to my research over the years. Gratefulness has a lot of definitions, but I like to lean more towards the metaphysical aspect of gratefulness, the spiritual definition, the metaphysical aspects of grateful. And it is said that the energy of being grateful is the quality of being thankful, right? It's the quality of being took my mother to an early grave. I'm sorry to hear that. Very sorry to hear that. It's the quality of being thankful and a readiness, right? Is readiness to show what? To show appreciation, to show love, a readiness to return kindness, right? That's the vibration and the energy of grateful, of being grateful, of gratefulness. How is it? I saw that, Ms. Reg. I'll answer your question shortly. I saw it. How is it, though, that you can be thankful if you've never had anything in your life to feel thankful about? How is it that you can feel gratitude or appreciation for things if you've never experienced anything in life to your understanding that you should be grateful about or that you should be thankful for? It's very difficult. These are the people that we see in workplaces, and they always look bitter. They always look upset. These are the individuals that we see at work, in workplaces. These are the individuals that sometimes they are in your own family, right? That's always mad, always upset, always looking at the negative things of life, always picking up people, always judging, always criticizing, very envious, very jealous, very, always comparing people, comparing themselves. These are people that are very low vibrational. And I cannot be the only one in this world or in this life that has been exposed to people like that. I've seen it in workplaces, many places that I've worked at. I've seen it, in numerous places. Have you all ever been exposed to someone that is like that? Have you ever been exposed to someone like that? Because I know I have. Okay. So they find nothing. Okay. They just find nothing they find nothing humorous. They find nothing to celebrate. The lack of celebration. We can go deep on that one. The lack of celebration. The lack of feeling joyed. The lack of feeling happy for themselves or other people. The lack of being able to take a circumstance and find a positive alternative. Okay, am I making sense to you thus far, right? So we started off with differentiating between our incarnate spirit, because see, the word spirit gets used loosely and it gets used across the board very much so. So I wanted to establish that there's a major difference, okay, between one's spirit, because we are not our body. This is just the suit that we wear, right, to navigate around in this world, in the earthly realm. And there's a difference between our own spirit versus what I call the ungrateful spirits. The ungrateful spirits, who are they? If you recall, the ungrateful spirits are the ones that hardly ever had anything prosperous going on in their life. Hardly ever anything positive going on in their life. They never experienced joy. They never experienced love. They always felt unprotected. They were always under attack. They always felt sick, right? That's another one. Someone that maybe was born with health challenges, and the vast majority of their whole human existence, they have battled with health issues. A lot of people that were born in sickness and they died in sickness hardly ever experienced joy. Okay? That's not always the case across the board, but a great number of people that were born in sickness and they spend their whole life in sickness and they die being sick hardly ever experience joy. So they become part of these ungrateful spirits, because again, if we go back to the definition of being grateful from the metaphysical and the spiritual definition, not necessarily only the Webster's dictionary, being grateful from a metaphysical and spiritual perspective, we stated that it is the ability or the quality of being thankful, the ability or quality of having appreciation, right? The ability to return kindness. These are one of the many definitions of being grateful from a metaphysical spiritual perspective. So, as I stated earlier, hardly ever these individuals that belong to that ungrateful spirit's court, they never felt like they had anything to feel thankful about. They never felt like they had anything to be appreciative of. What am I going to be appreciative of? I appreciate that I was sick my whole entire life. I appreciate that I was, molested and raped when I was 7 years old, and then I was re-abused again when I was in my teens, and then I was re-abused again by the person I married, and then I was re-abused again by, and these people, they die in suffering, they die in pain, they die battling these life conflicts, so therefore they don't really feel that there's anything for them to be thankful about, okay? And then we establish the fact that these ungrateful spirits have the ability to latch on, okay, to the living. They have the ability, whether you, me, whomever, we can all be exposed to ungrateful spirits. And we can, if we're not cautious, we could become the host of an ungrateful spirit, okay? And when we become the host of ungrateful spirits, it impedes our growth. It blocks our ability to maximize, to grow, to really walk our path, to really be able to walk into prosperity, to really be able to live a high vibrational quality kind of life, if that makes any sense. Okay. Now, many people, in my experience, I can only speak to you from my experience. In my experience and in my belief, the vast majority of us human beings at some point in our life can or have been exposed, okay, to an ungrateful spirit. Okay? The difference is that when we are exposed to ungrateful spirits, the level of impact that our exposure to an ungrateful spirits can have in our life is dependent upon the personal relationship we have with our own incarnate spirit, with our own spirit guides, with our own ancestors of wisdom. And if you've heard me, if you've been following me for a while, you know that ancestors of wisdom is a personal terminology of mine that I have coined, because I believe that there are many ancestors that had no fucking wisdom. This whole shit about not elevating, that's the wrong choice of word. This whole notion of when we use the word ancestor, And we think that all ancestors were good, that all ancestors were great, that all ancestors were knowledgeable, that all ancestors were kind-hearted, that all ancestors want the best for us, that all ancestors, have our best interests at heart. That is BS. Respectfully said, I'm not here to argue with anyone. If your belief is different, I respect it. I won't agree with it, but I respect it. I can only teach you and I can only communicate with you and dialogue with you what I have been taught, what I have learned throughout my years of doing this for 30 years now, So I can only, I'm just I'm just one little tiny fish in a big ocean. So my law doesn't necessarily have to be everyone else's law, but we have to understand that we are indeed affected by energy. We are indeed affected by much energy around us. We are energy. Our body is energy. We live in an energetic world. So regardless of whether we, for example, me being an Afro-Cuban man with Afro-Cuban practices and traditions, that's one coin, right, of many coins around the world. But it doesn't matter if you're Christian. It doesn't matter if you're Jehovah's Witness. It doesn't matter if you are, belong to the Nation of Islam. It doesn't matter what path, what walk of life you belong to. What matters is the fact that you and I, regardless of what our ethnic background is, what our culture is, what our origins are, we can all be affected by a negative vibration, by a negative entity, by a negative spirit, right? Whom I, for the purposes of this life, have termed the ungrateful spirits, because that does exist. Now, depending upon which walk of life we subscribe to, whether we are, Omorichas, Yorubas, Christians, Jehovah's Witnesses. If I'm an Afro-Cuban, practitioner, as I am, I'm going to resort to Afro-Cuban practices to combat and to protect myself against ungrateful spirits. If you're a Christian, you're going to, use the Bible to protect yourself against ungrateful spirits. Specifically, you're going to use Psalms, right? The Psalms are very powerful in the Bible. I should probably do a class of Psalms, different protective Psalms that we use to protect ourselves, right? So if you are belong to another walk of life, you're going to maybe subscribe and use the Quran to protect you against ungrateful spirits. But the truth of the matter is that we are all exposed to ungrateful spirits. Am I making any sense to you thus far? Okay, let's understand this. Let's understand this. There's many of you that are joining us right now. So welcome to all my loving, beautiful soul family. Happy Thursday to each and every one of you. If you are joining us now, we are speaking about ungrateful spirits. We have established the fact that our incarnate spirit is different than just any other spirit. Our incarnate spirit is the energy that moves in our body. This body that we have, we are not our body. We are a spirit using this body, as a suit to go about and move about and be in this world, but we're not our body. We are an incarnate spirit, right? And we established the fact that ungrateful spirits, for the most part, are individuals that mostly lived in suffering and pain, mostly experienced loss after loss, mostly was challenged, mostly, endured a lot of mental, physical, emotional pain, okay? People that were sickly, people that were abused, people that just was literally kicked up the ass from left to right for the vast majority of their life. And we looked at the metaphysical / spiritual definition of being grateful, which again was what? The quality of being able to be appreciative, okay? The quality of being able to be thankful. Now, it is very difficult for people that have had very, very, very suffering lives to be thankful about anything. It's very difficult for people that have had a suffering life to be appreciative about anything, which is why they lack gratefulness, which is where I want to get at. They lack the ability to be grateful, so they lack the spirit of gratefulness, okay? lack of spirit of gratefulness, because I have nothing to feel grateful about. Okay. And these then are our other the other thing that we established was the fact that these ungrateful spirits, they don't elevate. And because they fail to elevate, not because they cannot elevate. Let's make that very, very, very clear. They don't elevate does not mean they can't elevate. They just have not been helped. They have not been guided to be able to elevate. This goes to the question that Miss Reg had. How can we help them? Right? So it's not that they don't have the ability to elevate. It's that they have not elevate. They have not been helped to elevate. So they stay what? We established this already earlier in the live. They stay in this limbic energy state. They're in limbo. If you practice Espiritismo with heavy Catholic background, we call it las almas del purgatorio, right? Las almas del purgatorio, the souls of purgatory, the souls that live in purgatory. Okay, so definitely this is a very important topic to understand, because as I established earlier, we are surrounded by these people who are hosts to ungrateful spirits. And they are hosts to ungrateful spirits because the vast majority of the time they are upset, they're mad, they're depressed. The vast majority of the time throughout their whole life, they're angry. They are, they're always looking at the negative aspect of life. They're always looking at the cup half empty. They're always feeling even envious. They welcome the energy of envy. They welcome the energy of jealousy. They welcome the energy of putting people down. They welcome the energy of hate, because you become the host to ungrateful spirits that make you react, do things that go against the light, that go against the better self, that goes against your higher self. Okay? So it's very important to understand this. I also think that Spirit gave me this topic to speak about today because I don't know about you. I know everyone does not watch the news all the time. I'm not whatchamacallit. I am not someone that watches the news every single day. I believe that the news can be used to manipulate people, to manipulate society. I believe the news can be sometimes detrimental to one's mental peace of mind. But regardless of what our opinion is about the news, we cannot deny, Santo Mijito, my godson here, real estate kids, Chris, we cannot deny the fact that the things that the news chooses to share with us is happening around the world. It's not made up stories. Just the fact that they choose to put out there push into our eyes all the bad things that are happening, and we hardly ever hear about the good things that are happening, does not mean that the bad things that they show is a lie. It's not a lie. It's not a lie that sadly we had someone in New York City that decided to throw a gas bomb in a train and told people run and started shooting and started going crazy. It's not a lie. That did happen. Okay. It's just like every other, atrocious story we hear about. These things are happening. But what I'm trying to establish here today is that my belief, from what I've seen, from what I continue to see, okay, I believe that our world as we know it, energetically, spiritually, vibrationally, is dramatically changing. It is dramatically changing. I believe that part of this dramatic change that our world is going through, okay, is part of Mother Earth really purging. And when the universe purge, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. When you and I purge in our own personal life by ourselves, it's not pretty. Right? Can we agree on that? When you and I purge, when you and I decide to purge in our own personal life, just by ourselves, I'm purging, from bad things that happened to me, bad things that I did, bad things that I was part of, whatever it is that we choose to purge on a personal level, it ain't ugly. I mean, it ain't pretty. It's always ugly. So imagine, we cannot only, at least I can't, we cannot even imagine what it's like when the earth is purging, right? It's not pretty. I don't know about you, but it is my opinion that we are seeing much more craziness going on these days. Just people really losing it. Has there always been craziness going on? Ever since I can remember. Ever since I can remember, there's been craziness going on all over the world. Ever since I can remember, there's always been ugly shit going on all over the world. It's not new, but it is my belief from what I continue to see that it is aggressive. It is much more aggressive now. It has intensified. It's happening, in every other corner. It's happening in every single city. It's happening in every single country. It's happening to all sorts of people. It's happening on all social levels. It's happening regardless of what your financial, class is. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, whether you're middle class, whatever it is, it's happening all over the place. There's revolt everywhere. There are people around the world, there are countries, there are citizens of countries revolting in ways never seen before. Okay. I can speak about this as a human man. Okay. In my own country, a country that has been under the dominion of communism for 60 plus years. And in 60 plus years, we've never seen el pueblo, okay, the peoples going out into the street, and saying, I've had it, no more. I might die today, but I don't give a shit. I've had it. And we just saw it last year, okay? Did the problem stop? Did everything get fixed? Hell no. Hell no. That's not what we're establishing here. We're establishing the fact that the things that we have been seeing for the last 2 years plus, we've never really seen before. At least not everything happening back to back simultaneously in such an intense kind of way. Okay. Thank you. Literally Magic Body Sculpting for those badges. I appreciate you. Much love to you. So it is important for us to understand that the universe is purging. And because the universe is purging, we have to be 10 times, not twice, we have to be 10 times much as cautious and protective of ourselves, our family members, our loved ones, okay? We have to be able to learn a new system of being. Did you hear that? We have to be open and willing to learn a new system of being. Because it is only when we allow ourselves to be reprogrammed not to what patriarchal energy wants us to be. Okay. And yes, I say patriarchal energy wants us to be. You know why? I don't want to go on a tangent here, and I'm going to stay on topic, but hear me out for 30 seconds. I say us because even though patriarchy has been used to dominate, dehumanize, control, alienate, and hurt the divine feminine, to hurt women, it has also hurt men. Why? Before you get reactive, hear me out. That's the one thing that we don't do. We don't listen to people. We are quick at reacting when something triggers us, or when we don't initially agree with something, we shut it down, and we're not even open enough to listen. That's something that we have to learn, is to listen. Okay? It hurts men too. Why? Hear me out for 2 seconds. Do you think that patriarchy could have hurt so many women? Do you think that patriarchy could have hurt the divine feminine to such an extreme extent without reprogramming the minds of men? Oh, come on now, people. Please, in the name of the baby black Jesus. Okay? In order for this patriarchal energy to continuously step on the divine feminine, they had to brainwash and train the men first. And men, we have been negatively affected by patriarchy as well, because we have gone at each other's throat. The voice of the divine speaks to us in our soul. The voice of the divine speaks to us in our heart. The voice of the divine speaks to each and every human being the truth. So it is traumatic to get a message in our soul that says, do this. But society teaches men to do different. Society, the patriarchal vibration that has been dominating over this world, has taught men to be different than what the voice of the divine tells him to be in his heart. That's a whole other topic. That's a whole different live, and we can go deep on that, but I don't want to go there. Let's stay on track. This is a moment in time in the process of the universe purging that we must do everything within our power to reprogram ourselves to the level of divine intelligence. Reprogram ourselves to a level of divine intelligence. Okay? Divine intelligence. Divine intelligence. Why divine intelligence? Because the divine intelligence only comes from God. Whatever you call God, whether you call it Jesus, whether you call it God, whether you call it Allah, whether you call it Olofin Olodumare, whether you call it Mother Earth, whether you call it Universe, whether you call it Avasi, Ensambe, whichever your divine source is, that is the one that we have to, be reprogrammed to. The one that understands who we are supposed to be from the moment of our birth, right? Actually, since before we were born, okay? So it is important to understand that the universe as we know it is purging. And no purging experience is pretty. Okay? No purging experience is pretty. No purging experience is, cookies and creams, and Dunkin' Donuts. No, it isn't. Okay? It is a kick up the ass. I, as a spiritual healer, as an Afro-Cuban spiritual practitioner, I believe that I am commanded by the divine to uplift, guide, support, and teach the little that I know, that I have learned humbly to the world, regardless of sex orientation, dogma, creed, walk of life. But I do believe and I feel wholeheartedly that I subscribe a lot to divine feminine healing. If you ask me, why do I subscribe more to divine feminine healing? I subscribe more to divine feminine healing because, unless I've said this many times since I've been on social media, people in my personal life knows this to be true from me. Before I even became some little somebody on social media land, I've always said this. The fact that unless we contribute as men, as long as we contribute to healing the divine feminine, Mother Earth won't be able to heal. Mother Earth will not be able to recalibrate. Mother Earth won't be able to fully find her balance, okay? her balance. Her balance. And I don't know. I don't know everything. I wish I did, but I don't. And to be honest with you, sometimes I don't wish I knew everything, because if I knew everything, that would be 10 times much more of a responsibility, 10 times more of a war, 10 times more of a battle, and I'm really not up for it, okay? But it's possible that maybe I think like this because I was raised by a woman, I was raised by a mother. I adore my father. But I also am very blunt and very vocal about the fact that I was raised by a woman, by my mother. I was raised by a woman that was both mom and dad. And that the love that I give my father, and that the love that he and I have for one another, is because it just comes generally from my heart. It's because I have no space for grudges and why didn't he stay, and why didn't he raise me, and I've been able to elevate that. I've been able to purge that. I've been able to cleanse that out of my system. I've been able to just, and it is due also to the intense spiritual work that I've done my whole entire life, because if not, I would have never been able to. I digress. I grew up around women. I grew up around my mother. I grew up around many elder women. So yes, I subscribe. Sometimes my attitude, my approach, my demeanor, my belief tends to subscribe more towards women than men. But it's not because I have less love for my soul brothers. As a matter of fact, my beloved queen in my life, she would be the first to tell you that I always complain about the fact that I hardly ever get any men, to listen to me for whatever reason. It's usually always women that the vast majority of my clientele, the vast majority of my godchildren, even in my spiritual religious path, have always been women. But my heart, my mind, my inner spirit is equally open to work and support the divine masculine as well. But my approach in supporting the divine masculine, let me at least say this so I can get back to my topic, because I see I went completely in a different direction, so don't get mad at me. My approach in supporting the divine masculine will always be different than my support towards divine feminine. How so? Very simple. My approach to supporting the divine masculine is to be able to strip the masculine away, strip them free of the patriarchal energy that has caused so much pain, hurt, and divisiveness in our world. So my aim in working with men, especially more men in the future, is to be able to help and support men in recalibrating back to the divine masculine vibration, to the real divine masculine energy, right? While as my support towards women is for women to be able to be free and find freedom from the pain and the aches that us men have caused in women. If that makes any sense. That is my model. That is my my purpose, right? So this is where we find our balance. Now, for the purposes of this life, in terms of ungrateful spirits, we must be cautious of being continuously the host to ungrateful spirits. One way that you can start to process this. You can start to process this by first being totally honest with yourself. Ask yourself questions such as, for the most part, am I always upset? Am I always cranky? Am I usually always in a bad mood? Am I usually always antagonistic? Okay. Am I usually always against other people? Am I usually always jealous? Am I usually always envious? Am I usually always a gossiper? Am I usually always hating on what other people have? Am I usually always comparing people or comparing myself to other people? Am I usually abusive verbally or mentally or physically to my children or my partner? Am I usually always reactive? Am I usually always low vibrational in the sense of being always sad and always slow and always sluggish and always depressed and always feeling careless and always, because that is also a sign that you have been affected by an ungrateful spirit. And unless we understand the severity of being affected by ungrateful spirits, I need you to understand and know the fact that we could never grow. We can never step into our true divine power because we are being affected negatively by ungrateful spirits. Spirits that have failed to reach the light. Spirits that have failed to elevate. Spirits that stay in limbo, in this limbic state. Spirits that don't bring joy, don't bring love, don't bring growth, don't bring happiness. Ungrateful spirits, let me go on a little further with this. Ungrateful spirits can also be entities that always struggled financially. Did you hear me? Spirits that always struggled financially. They were always in a financial struggle. They were always battling for money. They were always struggling to keep the lights on. They were always battling to, pay the rent. They were always battling to buy themselves a pair of shoes. They were always battling, whether or not they should buy themselves a new pair, a new dress. They were always because then you are the kind of individual, when you become a host to an ungrateful spirit that was always financially struggling, you struggle financially too all the time. You have a hard time making financial decisions. You have a bad relationship with money. You never learn about investments. You never would even try investing because you want to hold on to the only $100 you have, to the only $500 you have, to the only $600 you have, because your mind is not equipped to understand that we live in a universe that has 100 times fold to go around. There's much, much to go around. But when we don't trust ourselves with finances, when we don't trust ourselves with money, and we approach life with a scarce mentality, that scarce mentality can be a result of you being a host to an ungrateful spirit that never had financial growth. Am I making any sense to anyone? Do you understand me? This is why, I got to take it here, this is why what we call shadow work is so, so, so important. This is why shadow work is so important. Because during shadow work, if we do deep shadow work, not this whole, I'm not criticizing, and I'm not even going to go there actually. Let me shut up. All shadow work is needed, regardless at what level. I can only bring to you the shadow work that Spirit has guided me into designing. And the shadow work that Spirit has guided me into designing is the kind of shadow work where we go deep into really asking ourselves the questions that we don't want to ask, into really knocking at the door of places we don't want to go to, into looking into areas that we conveniently and purposely and intentionally ignore because it's just too much for me to go there. It's too much for me to hang around in that closet. It's too much for me to try to even answer this question. It's too much for me to even, why? But shadow work, the real deep shadow work is difficult to do And shadow work, let me tell you something about shadow work. I am the first one, even though I teach shadow work, even though I host shadow work retreats, even though I do a lot of shadow work. Shadow work is never a one-time deal. It's never a one-weekend deal. It's never a one-month deal. Shadow work should be done every single day. We are meant to be doing shadow work every day of our life. Why? Because number one, the obvious. We are not perfect. We're not perfect. We are naturally imperfect human beings, which means we will always have something to work on. We will always have something to get better at. We will always have something to try to perfect. Right? But with the kind of shadow work that I do and that I bring to my soul family, it is the kind of shadow work that lays the foundation for you to continue working on. It lays the foundation to be able to start bringing out the ugliest of the gunk, but one that teaches you how to maintain it active in your day-to-day life. That's why I'm having the shadow work Bootcamp on May 22nd. That's why I'm having the shadow work retreat in October, because it is important for us to be able to help ourselves to be freed from ungrateful spirits that always latch onto us. And for some of you, they might be affecting you in your love life, romantic life. For some of you, you might be continuously affected in your financial life. For some of you, you might be continuously affected in your health life, right? In the health aspect of your life. So shadow work is necessary, is deep, because the things that we go through, that we experience, is running through our veins, is running through the blood in our veins, beloveds. It's running through the blood in our veins. So it is important to us, for us to understand, why am I like this when the voice of the divine in my soul tells me I can be like that? But because I don't have an example of that, or I don't have a living example of that, I am internally conflicted between what I am, what I continue to be, versus what I can be, what I could be. There's an inner conflict. There's an inner conflict. So many of you live in continuous pain, physical pain, mental pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain. So many of you live in financial pain. Yes, financial is pain. Okay, when you're struggling financially, it's painful. It's painful. Can I go somewhere with you? Oh Lord, I don't know. I don't think you're all ready for this shit, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway. We're speaking about ungrateful spirits. We're speaking about the difference between our incarnate spirit and an ungrateful spirit. We're speaking about how do all ungrateful spirits become ungrateful. We're speaking about how we can become the host to ungrateful spirits. We're speaking about how it can affect our life at different levels, right? How about the fact that many of us practice certain spiritual paths where we are told that we need to become a better human being. We should be a better husband. We should be a better wife. I should be obedient in this. I should be obedient in that. But we're not told, and we're not taught, and we're not spoken about financial freedom. We're not spoken about financial freedom. Why is it that in many walks of life, the topic of financial freedom is not spoken about? Oh, Lord, can I really go there right now? Can I really go there right now? Ay, Dios mío. How is it, my beloved soul family, how is it that in many walks of life, okay, in many walks of life, we are not taught about financial freedom? Even in my Afro-Cuban tradition, okay, even in my Afro-Cuban traditions, then yet we subscribe to the energy of Oshun, who is said to be the vibration, the energy, the Oricha, the goddess of prosperity. Okay? The goddess of riches. And then yet, yes, we do the ebo, or we do the healing, or we do the cleanse, or we do the sacrifice for an immediate issue. We do the sacrifices to get a job, J-O-B. We do the sacrifices to get that promotion, or to get, hired, or let me do this to Elegua so that when I go to this interview, or when I speak to my boss, he gives me the promotion, or this person, picks me out of a group of people after they evaluate me and dissect me and break me down, right? But to still be enslaved. You want to know why? Because we have become the host to an ungrateful spirit that had an enslaved mentality. And unless we break free, great grandmama, I love you. You were great, and I honor you for the sacrifices that you were able to do when you were alive. And I respect you for the pain and sufferings that you had to endure. But you are the kind of energy and spirit that I don't want around me. Because if I keep you around me, you're going to bring around me that mentality of being someone else's slave. Even though I may be able to make that weekly check, or that bi-weekly check, or that monthly check. It might be $6,000. It may be $7,000 a month. And it might be great. And it might pay my car note. It might pay my rent. But it's not promoting me, and it's not allowing me to be financially free. Because I cannot take an energy, a vibration, an entity, a spirit that was enslaved for me to be able to reach a level of financial freedom that I know I deserve. That's a whole nother topic and a whole nother conversation. Do you hear me? Okay. Do you hear me? It is important to understand how many times, even though there are deceased loved ones that loved us, and they did, because I know my grandmother loved me. She sure as hell did. And I'll fight anybody that tells me differently. I might slap somebody just like Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And I'm not saying that I agree with the slap. I'm just using it as an example. If you tell me that my grandmama didn't love me, I might slap you. But I cannot dismiss nor deny the fact that my grandmama, with all the love she had for me when she was alive and continues to have for me as a spirit, she did not have a financial education. She didn't. She didn't know shit about investments. She didn't know shit about stocks. She sure as hell didn't know anything about Bitcoin because it wasn't even around. She didn't know anything about real estate. She didn't know anything. She just didn't know anything. She didn't. She didn't know anything about CDs, CD accounts. She didn't know anything about, Wall Street. She didn't know anything. So, if, this is another topic, but I'm going to take it there for a minute. If my grandmother, who I loved and loved me, and was a respectful, moral, abiding woman, hard-working woman, great mother, great grandmother, great human being, I can go to her for certain things. And I can be able to have her blessing. I am able to obtain her blessing to be able to do something that she doesn't understand, but she's not going to be the one to carry me there. She's not going to be the one to carry me there. She's not. What I'm teaching you tonight is ancestral. This is ancestral healing itself. This is ancestral education. This is spiritual basics of understanding spirituality at this level, okay? Because we need to get away from, or maybe I shouldn't say the words away from, but we need to be able to grow above I'm gonna light the candle, and I'm gonna buy the flowers for my eguns, for my spirit guides, and I'm gonna sit by my boveda, and get my holy water and my spiritual water, and cleanse myself. No, we need to be able to also, aside from doing that, which is very much necessary, very, very much necessary. I am not dismissing the flowers. This is foundational. This is foundational in our spiritual practices. But we also need to be able to say, And let me tell you something, myself, family, in the name of transparency, because I'm not that kind of person, okay? I'm not the kind of person that's going to sit here and try to make you feel that I'm better than you. No, I'm sort of fuck not better than you. And let me tell you that I am the kind of individual that still to this day, as I speak to you, I am still learning. I am still educating myself. I am unlearning certain things that was able to carry me, but it's not able to sustain me. Oh, did you hear that? I am unlearning things that were able to carry me to this point in my life, but won't be able to sustain me to where I'm going. Do you hear me? Does anybody hear me? I don't care if it's just one person that understands my language tonight. I'm happy. So this is a moment in time where you and I have a responsibility, first and foremost to ourselves. But if you have a family, if you have children, you owe it to your children as well to not leave your children behind when you perish the way that your grandparents and your deceased parent left you, because it is very, very possible that your own birth parent, with as much as they love you and as much as you love them, and as much as they sacrifice themselves for you, as my mother did for me, it is very possible that they too can die tomorrow, being part of ungrateful spirits court. Because of all that they endured in this life, all that they were not able to do, all that they didn't learn how to do, all that they weren't able to see, all that they weren't educated in. And because of the ungrateful spirits that kept them in the dark as well. Do you hear me? It is important for us to understand that we have a responsibility to ourselves to teach ourselves something that we may feel we don't have the mental capacity to grasp. My queen tells me things such as, my queen tells me things all the time, not now, since the day we met. She used to send me this particular podcast, and she used to send me this particular video, and she used to take me, and intellectually, because I don't consider myself to be a stupid man, but intellectually I understood the fact that these conversations were important, but I also understood that I had to break free from, how can I call this? I had to break free from, I want to call this, and this is the first time I'm going to use this terminology. I don't know if it's ever been used by anyone else, but it's going to be used by me tonight. I had to break free from a spiritual, mental conditioning. Did you hear me? I had to break free from a spiritual, mental conditioning to even be able to start embracing hearing certain podcasts like Earn Your Leisure, hearing, different people that are doing it and doing it quite well. Even to be open enough to hear their conversation. Even though I'm still learning. Even though I have a long way to go, because I'm still trying to, free some space up here. I need to still free some space up here to understand a language that was never injected into me. You hear me? Because if I go back to my upbringing, I think it's fair to say that I was not what could be considered poor, right? Poor in the sense of not having food to eat, as sadly many people around the world, okay? Many people around the world, sadly said, many people around the globe, including in my own country, definitely in Africa, and in many different parts of the world, don't have a plate of food to bring to their mouth. Right? So when we compare it to that, I must say that I did not grow up in poverty. My lights were never turned off. My mother always made sure the lights were turned on. My mother always made sure that the water was always running. My mother always had food on the table. I always had decent clothes, right? I was also blessed to have an aunt who never got married, who never had children, but my older brother and I became like her children, and she spoiled the living hell out of us. She spoiled the living hell out of us. And she was a very, 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 very hardworking woman. She worked at a hospital for 50 plus years in the same hospital in New York City, Woodhull Medical Center. Ever since she arrived to the United States of America from Cuba, as a young woman, she learned English. She still spoke broken hell English. I don't even understand how she was able to have I don't even understand how she was able to have a job at the hospital at her level, right? Because she used to work at a department that doesn't even exist anymore, which was called utilization. And utilization, she was my aunt was fucking feared in the hospital, because utilization back then was a department that basically supervised the work of doctors, right? So if you ever went to the hospital, there's a file on you, right? And her department was the one that would review that file to make sure that everything that doctor did on you was done correctly, that everything. So she wasn't a doctor, but she had to know more than the doctor to be able to evaluate doctors, right? So anyway, point of the matter is I was 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. I used to go from Queens, New York on the train with my grandmother because my grandmother used to visit the hospital like it was fucking going to the park. And she used to visit my aunt in the hospital, and that used to be where we used to eat lunch every day. I guess that's why I love hospital food. Lord God, yeah, don't kill me on that one. So anyway, I remember, being 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years old. And I used to see my aunt. I used to run up and down that hospital like I fucking owned the hospital, right? And I kid you not, when doctors used to see my aunt walking down those big hallways, if anybody is on here from New York, they can tell you how big Woodhull Hospital is. the doctors used to be like, oh shit, there she goes, because she used to be feared. Anyway, long story short, even though that is my background, even though I was spoiled by my aunt, even though I had a hardworking mother, even though, even though, well, thank you, Nick Sweet. You see, she knows. Even though I had all that, I still come from a scarce mentality background, right? Okay, I still have, I still come from a scarce mentality background because I had all that, but no one talked to me about savings. No one spoke to me about, financial responsibility. No one spoke to me about financial. They didn't teach this fucking shit in high school. They might be teaching it now for all I know. I don't know. But when I was there, they didn't teach none of that shit. And yes, they had, certain class, economics class, but that's not what I'm talking about. And I hope I'm getting my points across clearly here. But that wasn't taught back then. So I was indeed under attack by an ungrateful spirit that blocked me from having a greater understanding of how to really elevate, promote my life, maximize my life. Come from a background where, yes, but you know what I am grateful for? My mom teaching me, she always taught me how nothing comes first before your basic needs. She taught me how I needed to have my rent money, my bills. She taught me how to never, be in a situation where, my lights would be cut off. So but it was, what I'm trying to establish here with you is the fact that though I was taught responsibility at that level, I was also taught survival. This idea of survival. Oh, thank you, Chavez Brid. ¿Cómo estás? Blessings to you, beloved. Blessings to you. I'm glad to see you on here. I was taught, it still came from a place of survival. That's what I'm trying to say. Survival mode. You have to have the paycheck, and you have to, paycheck, and, you can't dream other things. Back then, I don't know if it's still going on now. You all can tell me this, but there was a lot of things going on that were, I don't know what's the appropriate terminology, the correct terminology, but it was those, is it like, pyramid business, right? Pyramid businesses. People actually went knocking on your door and they tried that, or you had somebody that was already in some kind of system going on, and they want to bring you in, and you had to go to these meetings, and sometimes there used to be huge meetings, and if you bring these people, you get this percentage, and if they bring this people, then you get a percentage of that, that kind of pyramid thing, right? That worked miracles back then for a lot of people. I never got lucky in it because I was a motherfucker that always went to the first meeting but never went back. Because I'm like, I ain't gonna be fucking trying to get people down. I never had the patience. To be able to, but I sit here today in full transparency mode. I sit here today before you, and I wonder, even though those might have been schemes, they might have been, whatever it was, but could it have also been the fact that because I was under the influence of an ungrateful spirit, I never thought I had the patience to talk to people. I never thought I had the patience to be able to, because other people were making like money. There were people that were making money in these kinds of pyramid schemes, okay? Money. So on one side of the coin, I can probably defend myself by saying I didn't have the patience to be going. But on the other side of the coin, as a spiritual healer that I am, I had to recognize the fact that I was under the influence of an ungrateful spirit that didn't allow me to even try to grasp what it is to be in business, what it is to make money, what it is to look at growth from a different angle, right? Being able to look at growth from a different angle. I didn't have that ability because ungrateful spirits do that to you. Ungrateful spirits influence you to such a degree where some things that you see, even though you see it working from somebody else, you better write this down. An ungrateful spirit will have you looking. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm about to say this. An ungrateful spirit will have you looking at something that's working for somebody else, and yet you think it won't work for you. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Did you hear that? An ungrateful spirit, an unelevated spirit, will have you looking at things that is working for somebody else, and yet have you thinking and believing it won't work for you. Do you hear me? And yes, you could be under the influence of several, not just one, several ungrateful spirits. The one that has you looking at things that work for other people and then yet you feel it don't work for you, right? While also being under attack by an ungrateful spirit that has you believing that you're not meant to be part of that growth, that you're not meant to be part of that healing, that you're not meant to be part of that better life. Whether it's in the health department, whether it's in the love department, whether it's in financial department of your life. An ungrateful spirit. But deep shadow work is necessary every day of our life to understand how to break free from ungrateful spirits that we are all exposed to. We are all exposed to ungrateful spirits. But we have to do some deep shadow work to understand, where does this come from? Why do I think like this? Okay. Where did this situation come from? How did this situation affect me? How I am still dragging the energy of those traumatic experiences, or the energy of a scarce mentality, or the energy of, lacking self-love, so that I can start to break myself free from these self-imposed limiting beliefs. Am I making any sense to you? That's why we must infuse ourselves with the energy of gratefulness. Gratefulness is a vibration. Gratefulness is a spirit. Gratefulness is important to our life. We beat down, we combat against an ungrateful spirit by fueling in gratefulness within. When we are grateful, when we're truly grateful, we suffer less. When we truly are grateful, we experience trauma differently. Two people. One is ungrateful and one definitely is grateful. Can go through the same traumatic experience and they will both approach it differently. The ungrateful person can commit suicide. The ungrateful person can look at life like they will never get out of that situation. The ungrateful person can go through an enormous amount of different emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical negative experiences. While the same person that went through the same trauma, who is grateful, can always look at the other side of things, can always look at the brighter side of things, can always look at the light at the end of the tunnel, can always push themselves harder to go further, to overcome the struggle, to overcome the trauma. Do you hear me? This is all understood through shadow work. Anyway, I've been longer here than I wanted to. It is my deepest hope that this life meant something to someone. I hope that it has enlightened you, that it has strengthened you, that it has opened your eyes, that it has, helped you to push forward. And, my loves, I am here for you. Okay? I am here for you. I'm not just Tarot Tuesday. I am a spiritual healer. I am a spiritual life coach. Okay? And this is not just about tarot. We can definitely do a mediumship to see what's going on. What kind of ancestors are hanging around you? Okay? What kind of ancestors are hanging around you that does not allow you to really promote your life and elevate your life? You could be under the influence of an ungrateful spirit that has not elevated. And you struggle and you work hard and you open this business and it fails and you start to school and you never finish and you get married and then 3 years later you're divorced and you go into another relationship and it doesn't work and you try this and it doesn't work. Why is it not working? God did not design us to do good things that don't work. Why is it not working? Sometimes mediumships is not just to see, oh, because I want to see if my grandmother, she's okay on the other side. No. Sometimes mediumship is to also see what kind of ancestors are negatively affecting you, even if it, Lord, baby black Jesus, even if when it's not their true intentions to hurt you. But if that person does not have the right elevation, they can, when they get close to you, when they come into your life, they can end up hurting you more than helping you. Okay? Anyway, I'm out of here. If you haven't looked into it yet, listen, check out the Shadow Work Bootcamp. Okay? It will be on May 22nd. Thank you, Amanda, for those badges. I appreciate you. Okay? Look into the Shadow Work Bootcamp on May 22nd. It'll be an in-person. It's not going to be online. So for those of you not in town, I am sorry. But you're more than welcome to hop on a plane and come over. You're not going to regret it. You're not going to regret it. Okay? Because I'm going to leave you with this one. When we are under the influence of ungrateful spirits, we also have a hard time making investments in ourselves. We have a hard time making investments on ourselves because we have an ungrateful spirit that does not want you to make an investment on yourself. So, for those of you that joined us late, I really suggest that you go back to the beginning of this live. Let the people that are on here tell you whether or not it was of value or not. We dive deep tonight. We dive deep tonight into what ungrateful spirits are and how ungrateful spirits is different than our incarnate spirit and how we are not our body and how is it that ungrateful spirits affects our life negatively and how is it can set us back from reaching our highest potential. We dive deep tonight, I must say, if I may say so myself. So I'm going to share this live. Please, those of you that were on here the whole time, share it. If you think that this live was valuable, please share this live. Okay? Because you'd be surprised how many people are really tired of their own life and they don't even know why. So help another soul out by sharing this live. Again, check out the Shadow Work Bootcamp. It's going to be May 22nd. Okay, I'm only when it comes to these kind of shadow works, I'm only going to take a certain number of people because I like to be able to really focus directly, on you. So this is when all the slots are filled. I'm going to close it down. It'll be May 22nd. Click the link in my bio if you want more information on the upcoming Shadow Work Bootcamp day event. It'll be all day from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. You and I, okay? Click on the link in my bio. Go to the first tab where it says Shadow Work Bootcamp. All the information you need is on there. You also have a choice to pay it in full, okay? Or you can do the payment plan, okay? Lay down your deposit and you can do the payment plan. But trust me, if this life meant something to you, you need to be part of the boot camp, of the Shadow Work Boot Camp, because we're going to dive much deeper than we did tonight in this live. And let's get our life back. Let's get our life back. If you haven't subscribed to my text lines, send the phrase Soul Family to 833-749-2069 so you never miss anything that I do. Okay? Much love to each and every one of you. This is Spiritual Dr. Afi. If you need me, I am here. Click the link in my bio. Go find out about the Shadow Work Bootcamp. It'll be on May 22nd. Okay? Go find out about the other services that I offer. Okay? Let's look into the importance of understanding how we are negatively affected by unelevated spirits around us. Much love to each and every one of you. Over and out.